Hi, Shannon here with Animal Love Languages, animal communicator and Reiki Master practitioner. So delighted to welcome you to this video where I want to talk about the key elements of receiving clearer and clearer messages from animals, whether this is animals that are in your family, animals that you're maybe working with, animals that you're involved in rescue, rehabilitation, training, athletics, service, animals that are bonded with others, and you want to help those humans understand their own animals better. So, what are some of the things, some of the elements that best support you as you seek to communicate across species boundaries? Now, the first one is probably going to surprise you, and that is you need to breathe. Breathe, 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 breathe. I tell my animal communication students all the time that oxygenated cells are intuitive cells. Oxygen is something that our cells absolutely love and they need. It keeps them healthier, it keeps them happier, and most importantly, it keeps them eager to connect with each other and with us. And what happens is they get really sluggish about sending and receiving messages in the way that cells communicate, which is through neurotransmitters and little electrochemical messengers. And if they don't have enough oxygen, they're basically starting to get short of breath and they're suffocating and they don't want, they can't communicate as effectively as they are created to do. So we want to remember to breathe. Now, what often happens when we start learning how to talk with our animals, learning how to talk with animals, learning how to communicate across species boundaries is we get really excited, we get really nervous. Sometimes we don't know which am I like 90% excited, 10% nervous, am I 90% nervous, 10% excited? What is the makeup of the nerves? Is it I'm worried that I won't get information? Am I worried that others are going to get more information than I do, involved in comparing ourselves? Whatever the nerves are, am I worried that I'm not going to like what the animal has to say, or that it's going to be a criticism? Am I worried that there's another human in the mix who's going to argue with me or disagree with me? These are all things that come up. So we do need to kind of unpack the chemistry, if you will, of our the recipe of our nervousness. Excitement is excitement. It's an adrenaline rush and it's preparing us for greatness. So this is a little easier to understand, but however it hits us, we often forget to breathe. And when we forget to breathe, our little cells are inside our body going, I don't feel like working. And I'm not going to feel like working until you start breathing again. Everything constricts inside of us, toxins build up, it's kind of a ripple effect. It's like dominoes falling on each other, and it happens very quickly. And the easiest way to get out of that cycle is just, oh, that's right, I need to breathe. Okay, good. Feel better now. Everyone feels better now. Everybody back on board? Awesome. Okay, so the second thing that is absolutely vital if you want to send and receive clear messages is to drink enough water. Now, I know there's all kinds of science out there that talks about how there's many, many liquids that qualify as hydration, but the easiest and fastest way that your body intakes the hydration it needs is through plain, pure water. And it's really important to drink enough water so that, again, your poor little cells, now they're gasping for oxygen and they're dehydrated and they're really not in the mood for much of anything. They're like, go away and don't come back until you bring some oxygen and some water with you. So we want to remember to drink enough water. Speaking of, I always keep this by my animal communication station, if you will. It's also a great opportunity to remember to breathe. If you have a really hard time with this, you might install a bottle of water like the one I have, and actually put a little post-it note on it that says breathe, so you can remember, drink and breathe. These are two of the kindest, simplest things that we can do to elevate our communication with any being, including ourselves. Now, something else that may surprise you because animal communication, it's not a contact sport in most cases. The way of the world today, almost all the communications, the conversations that I have are remote. They're on the phone, they're on Zoom, they're over email. So we're not necessarily engaging with the animal's physical form. So what we're doing is we're engaging with their what we might call their 5D, their their soul essence, their higher consciousness, their higher intelligence. And so we need to make sure that we're in our own body before we start that communication. This could be something as simple as maybe taking a moment to stretch. It might mean what I often do is do a short session of yoga before I start an animal communication session. You could just, raise your arms above your head and just make sure that everybody's moving. Make sure you feel all the parts that are connected. And as you get deeper into animal communication and you start actually using your body as a communication tool, this becomes even more important. If you are not home in your physical self, in your 3D self, your 5D self is going to have an awfully hard time placing and receiving intuitive messages. And we go into that a lot more detail in my animal communication adventure classes, but understand this. Not only will movement kind of shake off the dust and help the toxins escape your body faster and with much more ease, but it also allows you to notice where you might be holding or tensing or uncomfortable. And it allows you to adjust that because you don't want something tugging at your attention. You don't want your physical body tugging at your attention, going, I hurt, I ache, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm not breathing. You want to be in and at peace in your physical form. There's so much information that can flow through your sensory intuitive pathways when you're at home and at peace in your body. And this means doing everything we can to take really good care of our bodies so that they are feeling good and are open and eager to support us as we communicate with animals. Another thing, this is so, 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 so important, is you can just think of it as just shake it up. Try something new, switch up your routines, get used to noticing, wondering, getting curious. If you always do a certain yoga video every day, I'm speaking to myself right now, then this morning I tried a Pilates video instead, and it helped me make some new neural connections. It helped me get playful and curious about where is this teacher going with this thing that she's got. And I've got my hands behind my head and my legs are in the air. What are we doing? When are we laugh and just get curious and interested and engaged with what's going on in your life in each moment. Sometimes we get so into our routines and we try to pack so much into a day or even into an hour that it's almost impossible to notice that we've just kind of gone on autopilot. And when we're on autopilot, we're living entirely from our left brain hemisphere, from the part of us that only seeks into our past for information. It seeks back to times when we've felt a certain way, when we've had a certain experience, when we've met a certain kind of person, when we have ended up in harm's way. And it's so anytime we approach a conversation with an animal from a place of autopilot, we're not going to be actually listening for the animal's end of the conversation. We're going to be going back in our mind and trying to. It's kind of like when you have a conversation with somebody and you could tell they're not really listening to you. They're either just waiting for their opportunity to talk, or they've already decided in advance that they know exactly what you're going to say. They've heard it all. already in their own heads, whether or not that's accurate. And so they're off just thinking about something else or planning the next part of their day, and they're just not even really present. And this is all too easy a trap to fall into when we forget to be playful, inventive, creative, to seek out new experiences, even if it's just like this morning, I went out in our backyard and I got down some new lawn chairs and one of them was broken. And I was like, I think I can fix this. And I just took a minute to kind of get some wood glue and try to put it back together. And that was something I don't do every day. And so I seek out these experiences deliberately because, believe it or not, these are the exact kinds of experiences that keep us open to the unexpected. And often, what the animal has to share with us isn't what it's not anything we could have in our wildest dreams cooked up, because it's coming from their life and their world and their experiences. And it's the height of ignorance and arrogance to assume that we can connect in with an animal for 15 minutes or 30 minutes and somehow anticipate in any way, shape, or form what on earth they have to share with us. We know nothing about their life. We know nothing about their past, their present. We don't know anything about their family. We don't know anything about their hopes and dreams. We don't know anything about the reasons why they incarnated in their physical body. We know nothing about them. And so to assume anything is death to the actual in the moment conversation. This is so important to understand. And the good news is that placing ourselves in a state of constant interest in what's really happening in life right now, placing ourselves in the path of new experiences in every moment of our day. Like if you always get up and you drink a certain beverage and you do this and then that and then this, just play with switching it up and just see how that shakes some things loose and maybe helps you discover that you kind of like doing it this way better. And so, one of my intuitive teachers always says, never assume you know anyone, including yourself. You always have more to learn about yourself. This is so important. And the more you're engaged in continually learning more about yourself, exploring yourself, experiencing yourself, getting curious about yourself, asking yourself, do you really even like this kind of coffee? Or would you like to try something new this week? Or today, would you rather have tea? Continuing to stay engaged with your own experience of you living your own life. This is so vital and important. Something else I find absolutely unskippable is not a word, but you cannot skip this, is to set an intention when you start, right before you start the conversation. Why do you want to have this conversation? Why does this matter to you? What is your purpose for initiating this conversation? Now, this is important to do in any conversation, even if you're just chatting about what to have for lunch, but it's especially important when you're going to be communicating with an animal who may have something very important to tell you and may have never had the opportunity to tell any one of our species before whatever it is that they want to share. I mean, there are so many animals out there that will never receive the opportunity to bend the ear, if you will, of a Homo sapiens. And the truth is that we're at the ape we're the apex predator. We're at the top of the food chain. We have the most power and influence to make this planet a better place for all of us. And so trust me, that animal does not want to waste their opportunity to make a difference, to be heard. And so you want to make sure that you have all of your ears open to listen. So you want to set an intention to be present. My intention is very simple. I share this with all of my animal communication students and often with my human clients as well. My intention is to trust the animals and to receive clear communication. I want to be present for them. I want to be of service. I want to show up 150% with all of my sensory channels wide open. And this leads me to the final tidbit that I want to share with you today. If you want to have clearer, deeper, more consistent conversations across species boundaries, you must bring with you a quiet mind. Now, meditation, it's one of those words like self-care. It lands briefly and bounces right back off, and we're like, yeah, 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 I know I need to do that, or even I'm doing it. But what are we doing when we're not doing it? A lot of stuff, as it turns out, and what a lot of us are doing is that we are reading news feeds, we are watching the news on TV, or we're watching very emotional shows on television or movies, or reading books that really get us all riled up or get our minds all upset or worried. A lot of us who are intuitively drawn to communicate with animals are highly sensitive. We're empathic and we feel very deeply, and it can take some time to process out those feelings, to quiet our minds, to quiet our bodies. It's We care. And so it's important to limit what we're caring about to things that we can actually make a difference. And that means picking and choosing, because if we come into an animal communication conversation and we've just read a whole bunch of news headlines, or we've just watched a really upsetting television program, or we've just tuned into the evening news broadcast on our way home from work, and our minds and our emotional bodies are all full of that information, it's always going to be, again, tugging at us. It's always going to be demanding our attention, because it's still in us. It's not, it hasn't cleared out of our bodies yet. Turning off the TV, turning off the radio, turning off the phone, turning off the social feeds, turning off toxic friendships or work relationships, doing whatever we can to create a quiet inner space. It's not enough to just be like, okay, for the hour before the animal communication session, I'm not going to listen to the news. That doesn't cancel out all of the intake that you've done throughout the rest of your day. And it means that it's going to be harder to separate out what's coming from the animal and what's still in you that needs to get processed. So I often say that today, even though I have decades under my belt as a singer, songwriter, musician, composer, a writer, my favorite sound is, other than chirping, of course, is my favorite sound is chirping. My second favorite sound is silence, because there is so much to hear. And most importantly, there is you there. And so meditation can feel crazy making at first. And I'm not necessarily suggesting that you start a meditation practice, although I think it's a wonderful idea. And I've been meditating since I was 19, so a very, very, very long time. But the reason we struggle with meditation is often because in those first days and weeks of trying to meditate, we just start to realize how crazy the thoughts in our minds are. And so it's kind of intolerable when we start. We're like, no, I don't want to go in there. Well, that's where you live. So yes, you do want to go in there. You do want to acquaint your mind with another way to live, because truthfully, at its most fundamental, every conversation we have is a meditation on another soul, on another point of view, on how the path feels in another set of shoes or paws or wings or claws. And so we need to be like the heron that arrives every morning in the bayou behind my house and sits there on a rock and meditates on the bayou water and meditates on the fish in the bayou water and meditates until he literally becomes one with the fish, because he just caught one and he swallowed it and he's feeling so much better. This is the kind of one pointed focus that when we bring this into an animal communication conversation, we strike gold. The animals feel the fine, high resonance of our frequency. They feel our quiet. They feel our calm. They feel at ease in our presence. We are congruent, our insides and our outsides match. We arrive in service mode already. We arrive asking, what would you like to share? Is there something you want to say? Maybe you've never even had the experience before of truly being heard, of having someone hold space for you so that you can share from your heart, from your gut, from your spirit. And we will not receive that level of trust and of intimacy with another being, whether it's ourselves, our same species, or any animal or plant or any sentient life we wish to speak with, if we do not arrive at peace, in quiet, ready to listen, ready to receive, and ready to serve. So I hope this has been helpful for you. It's always helpful for me just to hear myself reiterate the qualities and the experiences that matter most and that most impact my ability to be a force for good on this planet, because I love the idea of going to Mars. I think it might make a cool vacation, but I really like it here and I'd like to stay. I don't know about you, but we can do a lot of good here. And I think we're just getting started. There's a whole new up leveling going on in our communities, on the planet, and we've got a lot more good to do. And this is a huge part. What we've talked about in this video today is a huge part of it. It's where we start setting ourselves up for success, not just for ourselves, but for all of life. And most importantly, for the animals we care for and love. So, again, I'm Shannon, animallovelanguages.com. I would love to meet you. I'd love to meet your animals. I send out a weekly love letter. It's just a carefully curated, short and sweet little post that offers some new tools and tips and wonderful gifts each week. And I'd love to be a part of your world, and I'd love to invite you to be a part of mine as well. Okay, all my love. Bye for now.